Tonight on the Black Channel, get your Metamucil, get your Zantac, get whatever in the world you need. We're going to a whole new level of cringe. The Black Channel is live. Unapologetic, unadulterated, and absolutely uncompromising. Greetings, brothers and sisters from around the world, and welcome back to the home, the haven, the stronghold, and the everlasting super fortress of intelligent black thought. We are the Black Media. This is the Black Channel. I am the Black Authority. You are listening live to the only historically black college and university of higher education and learning in the cosmos. Of course, you're welcome to join us. And join us you shall, because on tonight's program here, folks, some people just don't know or care when or how to leave well enough alone. Apparently, they just don't know when or where. So everybody and their mama is trying to make hay off of the so-called 50 years of hip-hop. In reality, this is commercialization because it far predates that. But of course, in order to control something, you have to set the parameters of it. If you're going to control something, then you're going to have to define what it is, and you're going to have to set and create the narrative. But to get that done, you have to have competent operatives that you can put in place, competent people, or at least individuals that you can sell as having credibility to lead that discussion. And they don't have any of them, really. So now they're trying to prop some up, and no less than Kamala Harris herself has been trotted out. Folks, I could say a lot of things. But I'm not. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let her speak for herself. And all I can tell you is, man, oh man, sometimes some folks should just leave well enough alone. People, if you thought Tupac, Phife Dawg, and Chuck Taylors were as cringe as it could get, baby, you ain't seen nothing yet. First of all, check out what she's wearing. That looks like something from Damn Me, Scooby-Doo and the Mystery Machine. What in the hell is this? That's the first thing. What the hell is this? All right. Second of all, I'll let the woman herself speak for herself. I should stop it and not let her render herself any further, but she did this to herself.
And so let me just say welcome, everybody. Welcome to the first ever hip-hop house party at the home of the Vice President of the United States.
The first ever hip-hop house party. The first ever hip-hop house party at the Vice President of the United States. I can imagine that Mike Pence, Dick Cheney, or them, I can imagine they would be right there hosting such an event. I can imagine it. I'm sure this will become a regular thing. But, yeah.
And so let me just say welcome, everybody. Welcome to the first ever hip-hop house party at the home of the Vice President of the United States.
Okay, somebody in the chat room just said it. Somebody in the chat room said, what does she know about hip hop? Man, hang on to your 808 kick drums, because Kamala Harris is going to tell you what she knows about hip hop. No, I'm serious. Folks, Jason, just let it play.
And welcome also, of course, to the members of our administration, including Secretary Miguel Cardona, who's here, and all the elected officials, including members of the United States Congress, so many of whom have been long-standing champions of hip-hop. I want to welcome Governor Wes Moore, who is here, and to all the industry leaders and artists, welcome to our home. So, I don't need to tell anybody here, but hip-hop is the ultimate American art form.
Come on.
Ultimate American art form, okay? I'm going to let you get away with that, but are you going to put it in its context and its focus as the art form created by the descendants of the slaves? Are you going to put it in its focus as a art form created by black people out of slavery in America? Are you going to put it in that focus, or are you just going to keep using the word American over and over and over again?
I don't need to tell anybody here, but hip-hop is the ultimate American art form.
Come on. Talk about it.
Born at a back-to-school party in the Bronx.
That's right.
Raised on the streets of Philadelphia, Chicago, Oakland, and Atlanta. Hip-hop now shapes nearly every aspect of America's popular culture.
Come on.
And it reflects the incredible diversity and ingenuity of the American people.
Diversity. Yeah, diversity. There you go. All right, so far the word black hasn't come up a single time, but American and diversity have.
Of America's popular culture.
Come on.
And it reflects the incredible diversity and ingenuity of the American people. It combines rhythms from the continent of Africa, from the Caribbean, from Latin America, with the sounds of soul and gospel and R&B and funk, to create something entirely new. And to be clear, hip-hop culture is America's culture. It is a genre. It is music and melody and rhyme. And hip-hop is also an ethos of strength and self-determination, of ambition and aspiration, of pride, power, and purpose.
Go ahead, sis.
Hip-hop is a declaration of identity. It says, I love who I am, I represent where I come from, and I know where I'm going. And I will tell you, as a daughter of Oakland, California, hip-hop has been a part of my life since its very beginning. From growing up, knowing every word to Rapper's Delight, to
Here we go.
It's been a part of my life. I will tell you, as a daughter of Oakland, California, hip-hop has been a part of my life since its very beginning. From growing up, knowing every word to Rapper's Delight, to being in high school when my best friend from kindergarten, Stacy Johnson, who is here, would pick me up in her father's black Cadillac Coupe de Ville, there she is, to drive to a club in the city where the DJ played and we danced until we needed to take off our shoes. A few years later, I arrived here in DC at Howard University. You know. And among my most prized possessions were my bootleg Too Short tapes. And so let me just say, welcome everybody. Represent.
Yeah, y'all heard that for yourselves. As I tried to warn you, Did you all hear that? Oh, you thought she was going to back down from Tupac and Chuck Taylor's. Oh, she's not here to back down. She's here to double down. The girl raised in this Brahmin Indian household by her Brahmin Indian mother is telling all of us that she was getting dookie down back in the day. For real?
Where I come from, and I know where I'm going. California, hip hop has been a part of my life since its very beginning. From growing up, knowing every word to Rapper's Delight.
I would love to tell her, good, give us the first stanza right now. We would love to hear that. Do you all think she could make it past the first sentence? Do you think she make it to the first sentence, and then you think would she make it any further? I wonder. I'm thinking it's 50-50 even money.
To being in high school when my best friend from kindergarten, Stacy Johnson, who is here, would pick me up in her father's black Cadillac Coupe de Ville.
Did you? Now that right there, boy, that's the Chuck Taylor's moment right there. My friend back in high school used to pick me up in her dad's Cadillac Coupe de Ville. How the hell did you end up married to Doug if... Folks, I'm just saying. All right, people, come on now. Why didn't she just say, when my friend, her dad picked us up in his 69 Impala? Why didn't she say that? Why didn't she just say that instead? Well, her dad used to pick us up in his 69 Impala with them 22s on Dayton's. Why didn't she just say that instead, y'all? Why didn't she just go there and just call it a day? Why not?
Kindergarten, Stacy Johnson, who is here, would pick me up in her father's black Cadillac Coupe de Ville. There she is. To drive to a club in the city where the DJ played and we danced until we needed to take off our shoes.
I bet y'all were doing a bit more than just dancing. Ski-wee! I bet you and old Stacy was doing a lot more at that club than just dancing. Yeah, buddy. I bet they were. You know, them light-skinned biracial chicks. No offense, sisters, but y'all know what it is. I'm just saying.
A few years later, I arrived here in D.C. at Howard University. You know. And among my most prized possessions were my bootleg Too Short tapes.
Well, at least she got that part right, that they would have been tapes. At least she got that part right. Although I am curious as to what year she would have come to Howard University. I am curious what year that would have been. I just wonder if we try to match up the dates. I just wonder if those dates of when Too Short was making albums, if that corresponds to when she was at Howard, I wonder. I just wonder if we actually take a look at those dates, will they actually match up, or is this going to be another Tupac moment? I'm just wondering, is this going to be another Tupac moment, or will it actually match up or not? I'm just wondering. Yeah. Just saying, folks. Just saying. This is who they're sending out there, and I want to make it clear here that this actually means something. This is not just a throwaway event here. This isn't just a throwaway event. Because people out there don't understand why she is being sent here. By the way, if you Google it, says she went to Howard 82 to 86. She went to Howard in 82, graduated in 86. Went to Howard in 82, graduated in 86. I'm just saying. What was the bootleg album she was listening to, I wonder? Well, what was the bootleg album? Now, by the way, what was the bootleg album, y'all? I'm just saying. All right. What year was that? Did she get her dates right? You all can go do that little bit of homework and see if she actually got those dates right. And if she did, you can ask yourselves whether or not it matches up properly. She went to Howard in 82. She went to Howard in 82. 82. Why don't you all do yourselves a little favor and go take a look and see if she went to Howard in 82. Go find out when Too Short released his first album. I'm not even talking about officially released it. You can go take a look at when it first came out, by the way. Check that math on it. I think you might find a slight discrepancy there. Slight. If she went to Howard, did she actually go to Howard with her Too Short bootleg tape? She showed up at the dorms on day one with them? Okay. Next up here, folks, if you thought the cringe was through, oh, no. Some of y'all are going to be hating me after tonight. But the cringe isn't over. The cringe is coming down the home stretch. What? Is that not the most Karen? What is it about these immigrant background biracials? No offense. What's going on? Is she been hanging out with Doug too long? Is that not the most Karen thing? Is that not the most mayonnaise-y thing? Is one thing if we were talking to toddlers. This is about to be a grown man who's going to come through here. Read the titles for yourselves.
Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I got another one. I got two Dougie presents right now. I got two Dougie presents. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. I got another one. I got two Dougie presents right now.
I'll just let this one speak for itself. I will just let the optics of this speak for itself. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to let the optics of this say it on its own. Brothers and sisters, no disrespect to Dougie Fred, the real one. Does the brother need the money? People. Does the brother need the money? Y'all, we have to take better care of our icons. We got to take better care of our icons. Niggas is up here with corny people like they're doing the opening of a new Big Lot store. We got to take better care of our hip hop icons. We got to do more, because then they end up like this. First of all, the brother has aged exceptionally well. He has aged outrageously well, but look what he got to go through. Brother, your whole career has culminated in this moment? The whole career has culminated in this moment. All right. Y'all, first of all, what is she wearing? Second of all, what is her husband wearing? Take a look at what she's wearing and take a look at what Doug, the fake one, is wearing. Looks like he just got out of bed. Is that the best casual he got? Shows you how much of an effect she's had on him. She looks like him. He doesn't look anything like where she comes from. I'm like, maybe this... I bet you he paid a bunch of money for that shirt, too. I bet you he paid a bunch of money for that shirt, too. Come on now, folks. At least if black folks showed up at a damn country club, at least we'd be fresh in the Western gear. It's like Doug knew this was at least coming for weeks. He didn't go anywhere. He didn't go to Sean John. He didn't anything. Absolutely nothing. And I bet you she told him, "Oh, don't worry, you're fine. You're just fine." And he had time to prepare. He had time to prepare, and you're the vice president's husband, and you had time to get ready, and this is essentially it. This will be immortalized in history at this point. So I don't know who I feel more sorry for. Doug E. Spoiled or Dougie Mayo or Dougie Fresh. I don't know which one I feel more sorry for. Who do I feel more sorry for? Dougie Mayo or Dougie Fresh? I don't know. I don't know. But folks, there's a bigger issue here, believe it or not. There is a bigger issue at work. And I want you to understand something, because the really insidious part is this video here. You have a sitting U.S. politician at the very highest level. The only person higher than her is the president himself. And they have sent her out to be the representative of this message. And what I'm telling you all is that when you have government officials speaking on something like this, what this is tantamount to is establishing government policy. That in the eyes of the United States government, this is what rap and hip hop are. In the eyes of the government, you have a government official speaking on this in her official capacity as vice president, saying this to you. This is tantamount to establishing government policy, that this is the way the United States government views this black created art form from the descendants of the slaves. This is how they view it. That it does not belong to you. We just leapfrogged you, and it belongs to America. Just so long as we don't have to acknowledge you. So now it has been hijacked and stolen from you. In our eyes, we will acknowledge it so long as we don't have to marry it to you. That it now just goes into the general zeitgeist so that the corporations can now come along and rape it, as they always do. That this is the official government position on this. Folks, I want you to understand something. Did you all know there is no quote unquote official definition of what middle class is or means? There isn't one. When you hear people say things like poverty, in reality, there isn't really an official definition of these terms. These are terms that have general considerations, just like the term recession. There is no official government designation of what a recession is or when a recession begins. Now, according to economists, you'll hear this over and over again. The general consensus is that a recession is 2 quarters of negative growth. That once you cross that, you're now in a recession. But that's not an official designation by the government. So in reality, recession is an opinion. Well, guess what? Same thing for, quote, middle class. Guess what? Same thing for, quote, rich. There is, and by the way, and poor. The definition of rich, as well as the definition of poor, none of those have an official government designation. There is no official United States government definition of what the U.S. government considers to be rich, poor, middle class, recession. There isn't one, in case you didn't know. Yeah, a lot of you didn't know there actually isn't one. Well, guess what? There also isn't an official government definition of what hip hop is or where it comes from. But they are attempting to do with it what they've done with middle class, poor, rich, recession. Now we're framing the discussion. And she made absolutely certain to never say the word black while she was doing that. Made absolutely certain to never say the word black, never to talk about the history of it, never to go back to how far it was, never to do any of that. She deliberately avoided that in order to Americanize it and thus wrench it and rob it and mug it and steal it away from us. Now, would she have attempted to do such a thing for mariachi music? Would she have attempted to do such a thing for Japanese music? Would she? I'm talking about the stuff you see come over from here. Would she have attempted to do that? Or would she try to draw that back to Japan? Would she have done that? When you talk about that I forget the exact name of it off the top of my head, that Latino music that's basically like a ape of rap music. Would she have said that? Would she have done that? Would she have attempted to divorce it from them? Or would she have put it in clear contrast? Reggaeton, yeah. Would they have put it in clear contrast? Would she have done that? Would she have sat there and tried to divorce them from it? Or would she have put it in clear, stark contrast terms? Would she have done that? But when you get to us, it is about disenfranchising us economically, culturally, politically, socially. Would you have done that? Would you have done that? So, folks, I want you to understand the importance and the relevance of what you're hearing. You're seeing a government official at the highest level holding an event. This is like, yes, I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. This is akin to putting the rainbow flag lights on the White House. This is akin to putting the rainbow flag lights on the White House so that the government can craft the narrative of what LGBT is. And thus you have social policy. Even if you don't have legislative policy, you've now got social policy codified. Did you understand that? Now the social policy is being codified. I want you all to understand exactly the mechanism at work here and the strategy by the government and Kamala Harris and the others. That she's being sent out there to be this ultra cringe crash dummy so that she can speak on it. And so when she already did the dirty work, she already did the dirty deeds when she told you that this is an American art form. That's it. That was what she was sent there to do. She was sent there to say it's an American art form and keep pounding that and pounding that and pounding that and pounding that. This is an American art form. Something she would not have dared to do with any other group. And they sent her so that from that, understand something, folks? When you start hearing about things like breakdancing at the Olympics, or you start hearing about hip hop culture and celebrating this and 50 years and lionizing it and canonizing it, I just want you to understand that's the reason for her saying this, because all of these other institutions, corporate, educational, international, sports, all of them are going to follow her lead. Hell, they're probably the ones who told her to say it. But now that you've got a vice president saying it, they are now going to say that is their justification for following her lead, for following her defining of it. That's our reason for doing it. Tried to warn you all here before that when they start co-opting and corrupting things, the way in which it's done is they know you're going to laugh. They know it's going to be cringe, but that's not going to stop them. They know you're going to laugh. They know it's going to be cringe when you walk out there, but they're not going to stop doing that. The first few folks who go out there are meant to be crash dummies. The first few folks going out there are going to be crash dummies. Those folks are going to be laughed at, but then they're just going to send a steady stream of them out there. Remember, how many white rappers did we go through until you finally got Eminem? How many white rappers did you go through who got tossed aside left and right until you finally get to Eminem? So just understand, yeah, we can laugh and lampoon and mock and everything else, but just understand what the real purpose is. She's standing up there on that stage looking nothing like Michelle Obama. She's standing up there on that stage looking as Karen as she can be. She is looking as Karen as she can be. Telling us that she grew up, it's a hip hop event, telling us she grew up in hip hop culture, looking as Karen as she can be. She looks like Hillary Clinton. Looks like Hillary Clinton. Okay, let me go ahead and just put this to rest right now. Anytime you all are asked about Eminem and his legitimacy in rap music or anything else, it's usually going to be some young kids who are out of high school who are being corrupted, because when you see this kind of thing being saturated and they don't have the historical context of those of us before Eminem, remember this is over 20 years now, so they've just been completely bamboozled. All you got to do is ask one question. Ask them, how many Eminem songs do you play in your car on your way to school, on your way to work? How many Eminem songs do you play? If you're going to try to tell us that he's got legitimacy and it's just like everybody else, then all you all have to do is ask one question. How many Eminem songs do you got on your iPhone? How many Eminem songs do you have on your playlist? How many Eminem songs do you bump in the truck? How many Eminem songs are you bumping when you pull up at your girlfriend's house, your boyfriend's house, your relative's house? How many Eminem songs are thumping in your car when you pull up? That's all you all have to ask. Don't go round and round with people. You want to know how to shut it down real fast? Jason Black just told you how to shut it down real fast, right there in a hurry. Whoever wants to argue with you about his legitimacy, you just ask him, oh, that's great. How many Eminem songs do you have in your phone right now? How many Eminem songs do you bump when you pull up at high school, when you pull up at the college, when you pull up at your girlfriend's house? How many of them? When you go to the club, how many Eminem songs do you get down dancing to? How many? And watch them start splaining and hemming and hawing. So yeah, what I'm saying is when you get out here, when you get on Twitter, Eminem's got a fan base. When you get out here on the streets, when you talk among people and what they actually buy and what they actually own and what they actually have, the room goes deafeningly quiet. How many Eminem songs got played at the strip club? If you play Eminem at the strip club, ain't nobody making $1. Nobody is making a dime. You might as well play that damn Pee Wee Herman song. But this is very, very insidious, people. This is a full court press. This is the government stepping in and saying that we are going to define your culture and what it means going forward. We are going to do that. And this is their official effort to officially divorce it from us. And to say that this just belongs to everybody. People, you cannot do that. Jason, why not? First of all, the folks who say things like that, they're just out here relentlessly chasing interracial sexual access. It's disgusting. But here's the real reason. These things are our cultural legacy. They're not just our cultural history, that which has come before. They are our cultural legacy, that which we will pass down going forward. This belongs to our children and our grandchildren. This isn't just a nifty little thing that we made. This is our property. In the words of our immortal ancestor, Dr. John Henry Clarke, this is power, and I would no more share power than I would share my wife. The bottom line is it is our creation, and it is ours to own, but it is not ours to give away. We owe this to our children. We owe this to those who built it for us, that we maintained it with, but we owe this to our children. Because this reminds them of where we came from, which is the only way they can know where they came from. Let's be very, very clear about this lion-ass Pink Panther leisure suit heifer on this screen.
Hip-hop now shapes nearly every aspect of America's popular culture. Come on. Okay. And it reflects the incredible diversity and ingenuity of the American people. It combines rhythms from the continent of Africa, from the Caribbean, from Latin America, with the sounds of soul and
Now, did you hear the garbage that this butt-tooth rainbow handkerchief wearing heifer just said? She named Africa, the Caribbean. She named everywhere except the place it came from. Did you hear that? This is sacrilege. She named every place that the immigrants come from. She named all of those, the places that got it last. She didn't name the origin. She named the places that got it last. We didn't get anything from Africa for that. We didn't listen to Africa for that. Africa listens to us. We didn't listen to the Caribbean for that. The Caribbean listens to us. So what she's doing is outright lying. I want you to see how insidious and demonic this woman is. She named everywhere except where it came from.
It combines rhythms from the continent of Africa, from the Caribbean, from Latin America, with the sounds of soul and gospel and R&B and funk to create something entirely new. And to be clear, hip-hop culture is America's culture.
So that was the line that she was sent there to say. To be clear, hip-hop culture is American culture. Listen here, you lying snaggletooth wench. Hip-hop culture is the result of resistance to America's culture. Hip-hop culture is directly birthed out of our resistance to American culture. If we had been indoctrinated and integrated into American culture, hip-hop would never exist. When you play the message is a resistance to American culture. It is a full frontal assault resistance to it, not the result of American culture. It's the result of resisting America's culture, of oppressing us. America didn't positively, we're the people who created a positive reaction to a negative American culture. American culture is the negative. What we created was outside of America's culture. For those of you who are too young to remember, but for those of us going on half a century old, we all remember that they said rap was a fad. You remember? The corporations and the corporate media had just killed disco. And truth be told, how did they kill disco? They just kept saying disco is dead. For those of you from the early 80s, once MTV came about, what did they start saying when MTV came about? Disco is dead. Disco is dead. Disco is dead. Yeah, because you had a whole bunch of black folk who took that, who defined that. Took that and defined that. So once that started happening, Gloria Gaynor and so on, oh, disco is dead. Disco is dead. Disco is dead. Listen to Michael Jackson's Off the Wall album. Disco is dead. Disco is dead. Next thing you know, we have this light rock type music that defined early MTV. But they were saying disco is dead. Disco is dead. Disco was fine until we became the face of disco. Then disco was dead. Now we're going to 80s rock. Somebody says she's looking like my Pepto-Bismol bottle. Take a swig of that. Okay, then you get to the MTV era. And Run DMC, Walk This Way was what broke through. But remember what they said. Remember what they were saying. They were saying rap is a fad, just like disco. How many of y'all remember that? Give me the fire emoji in the chat room if you're old enough to remember that when Run DMC was on MTV, they weren't congratulating them. They were saying that, well, this rap music thing is a fad, just like disco. Give me the fire emoji in the chat room and hit the likes button. There's over 4,000 people in here live right now. If you're not feeling it, let me go ahead and wrap things up. But if you're feeling this, hit the likes button. If you were there and remember that, give me the fire emoji and hit the likes button if you remember them saying in the early 80s that rap music is a fad. And then they told you that everything was a fad, remember? Everything that we did, everything we created, they kept saying it was a fad. Disco's a fad. Rap is a fad. Break dancing is a fad. Black people have all but abandoned break dancing. Now they want to bring it back. Yeah, once they divorce it from you, then they say, oh, this is great and cool and wonderful. Yeah, once we can divorce you from it. Because whoever has the street credibility has the credibility. Whoever's got the street credibility has the credibility. And their goal has been to divorce us from that which we made so that they can come along and capitalize on it and own it. And it becomes yet another asset in their vault and leaves us right where we were. But do you all notice? That's what I'm trying to show you, from disco to rap to hip hop to break dancing. Every time you turn around, they tell you that everything we do is a fad. They never called country music a fad, even though we made that too. Never called their death metal a fad, and it was. Never called techno a fad, and it was. They never called any of those things fads. But everything we touch our hands on, they claim that's a fad. This is how seriously the race war against us is being prosecuted. It's only a fad when we are controlling the street credibility. As soon as they've wrested it away from us, all of a sudden, okay, it's not a fad anymore. It's all legit now. Everything's fine. Now. So you hear her sitting up here telling you this and trying to give a speech that is intended to embolden everyone except us. Because let's be very, very clear. This is what you're going to hear from your tethers. This is what you're going to hear from the immigrants out there online trying to take this from us. This is what you're going to hear over there. To the folks who recognize that this is ours, everything is still good. But to those who are trying to steal this from us, we don't go to Africa and try to steal their music. We don't go over there and try to take none of that. We never go over there and try to tell them what our contribution was to it or has been. We don't go to the Caribbean and tell them, well, this is ours too, and try to wave over their heads what our contribution was. Never mind the fact that all their music now is a sloppy imitation of us. Never mind that fact. Never mind that. You never see us doing that. We've never tried to co-opt anything they got. We've never tried to hijack it. We've never tried to do any of that. You ain't got to tell us to stop doing it. We never tried. Meanwhile, they're sitting up here imitating literally everything we sweat. So her saying this is intended to embolden the culture vultures and the thieves. That's what this is intended to do. So they're going to say, the vice president said, the vice president's one of you. Every time you have somebody with this treacherous backstabbing behavior, trying to imitate being one of us, it's one of you. Well, of course you like that. Yeah, she's part of your group that's trying to steal everything. She's black when convenient. That's the thing you notice. They're black when convenient. When they're by themselves, they're either Americans or Caribbean or whatever. But they're only black when they're surrounded by us. Only when they're surrounded by us. That's how serious the race war against us is.
It is a genre. It is music and melody and rhyme. And hip hop is also an ethos of strength and self-determination.
Strength of what? Do you notice this duplicitous lying heifer? She won't say what that is. Strength and determination of what? Whose determination? Whose strength? Whose? America's? It can't be America's strength that created it. It can't be, because you can't channel the energy of hip hop if you don't come from the experience. You have to have strength from a specific experience. Eminem can't do what we do. Eminem knows what it is like to be, quote unquote, financially poor in America. But Eminem will never know what it is like to be black and poor in America. Eminem has $50 million worth of whiteness. He was born with $2 or $3 million worth of whiteness. When you're black, your skin isn't currency. Your skin is a liability. He's never known that. He's never known what it is like to walk down the streets of 8 Mile without his $2 or $3 million of whiteness from the day he was born. Even in your trailer parks, your definition of poor is not our definition of poor. What you were struggling against was never what we were struggling against. You can't say that you learned what we learned. You weren't fighting what we were fighting. You didn't have to overcome what we overcame. So when Kamala Harris lies her Pink Panther built ass off about it's an ethos and strength and determination, you're not saying strength against what? It wasn't American culture that gave us our strength. We had to get strength to overcome American culture. American culture didn't help us. American culture was what we had to defeat. If you'll all remember, straight through the 80s, right into the 90s, they were saying that rap was a fad. It wouldn't last. It won't make it. It'll be gone. Folks, it's literally not until we get to Death Row Records and Interscope Records got sold to Warner Brothers for $400 million. It isn't until we get there that they finally stop saying that it's not gonna last. Never mind the fact that it was outselling everybody else. They were saying that because they were trying to talk it into its grave. If we just keep saying it, eventually we'll kill it the way we did disco and breakdancing. We'll just keep saying it. Then when that didn't happen, here comes Eminem.
Of ambition and aspiration, of pride, power, and purpose.
Pride, what pride, baby? It's not LGBT pride. What is the pride you're referring to? She hasn't said where it is. You're talking in vague generalities because you're being deceptive. Pride. What pride? Pride in what? You had plenty of white people saying white power and white pride since the 60s when we started saying black pride. You had plenty of white folks saying that. Why is it that that never became a cultural rallying point in America? Because white people were not trying to overcome anything honorable. White folk were not trying to overcome anything honorable. That's the problem. They weren't trying to do that. They didn't do that. They were not trying to overcome anything that was worth overcoming. Not at all. So what she's saying is dishonest again, but it's gotta be.
It is a genre. It is music and melody and rhyme. And hip hop is also an ethos of strength and self-determination, of ambition and aspiration, of pride, power, and purpose.
Go ahead, sis.
Hip hop is a declaration of identity. It says, I love who I am. I represent where I come from, and I know where I'm going. And I will tell you, as a daughter.
Okay, so for the Caribbean folk, where did you come from? For the white folk, where did you come from? What is it that you overcame? You know where you're going. Where are you going? This is the same place where did you come from? This is the same place we came from. And where are you going? This is the same place we're going. There's the problem with what they're saying here. That doesn't work. That doesn't work. You can't lump us in with everyone else. You can't lump us in with all of them. Their experiences didn't create this. You can't lump us in with the Caribbeans because their experience was from fleeing and running. Our experience was from standing and resisting. That's a whole different thing. That's why it sounds different. It's a whole different thing. That's why you don't have those results. Jamaican music isn't the music of resistance. No, don't tell me about Bob Marley. Jamaica has not presented us with an anthem or a genre of resistance. Haiti has not presented us with an anthem or genre of resistance. Africa has not presented us with an anthem or a genre of resistance. Latin America has not presented us with an anthem or a genre of resistance. We're the only ones because that's an outgrowth of our experience. Our experience wasn't us singing about going to some faraway land in Canada. Our songs were about making our stand right here. Our music was about bucking up the soldiers and telling them about how they're going to make their stand right where they are. Not about how they were going to get up and run to some faraway paradise somewhere. That's the difference.
Of Oakland, California, hip hop has been a part of my life since its very beginning.
I think that's enough said right there. I don't think I need to go any further there. I think that is enough said. This isn't theft. This is a mugging. This is not just theft. This is a mugging. This is what it's like for your culture, for you to get mugged of your culture in the middle of the street. This is what it means. Government policy is now coalescing. The government structure is now coalescing around, okay, we need to make sure we take anything that they've got of value. So just like you're flooding the zone physically with people who are not from the soil, not from the foundation, you're flooding the zone physically with individuals who are not connected to our struggle or our experience that created these cultural assets. These folks come over here and make drill rap. And if you're a white supremacist, don't y'all know something? On YouTube, we about to get deep off into it here for a moment. Don't you all notice that the DJ Vlads and all these other channels, the 1090 Jakes, by the way, y'all know the story there. You got the white YouTubers, all they talk about are the drill rappers. Did y'all get that? Did you realize that? All they talk about are the drill rappers. Egging them on and cheering them on to take out their ops. Oh, the white YouTubers love talking about them. I'm talking about for those of you who know, there's dozens of YouTube channels. I'm talking about with big followings. 500,000, 800,000, 1 million. Oh, they love talking to every drill rapper you could imagine. They go down the line talking to them. And then when somebody gets killed, they treat it like somebody getting eliminated on Xbox. They literally step over the dead rappers. Literally step over them. This is what you're taking a look at when these people say what they think is acceptable. If these people if the Caribbean was presenting us with the music of resistance, these folks wouldn't talk to them. They wouldn't talk to them at all. They wouldn't interview them because there's no way you can take that and turn it into something negative if they were not saying that. The crazier and more stupid it is, the more attention that they give it, because this is a race war. But if the Caribbean was bringing us that, that's what you would hear. If Afrobeats was bringing us the anthem of resistance, they wouldn't be saying anything. And no, Ebro, Afrobeats ain't overtaking a damn thing. Dude, change the air fresheners at the studio. Somebody is piping in straight meth fumes now, brother. Change the air fresheners, check the air filters, dude. They're piping in straight meth. Piping in straight meth. You're catching contact. I've got more to add to this, by the way. More to add to this. And, of course, you might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence. The only one of its kind on planet Earth today. As always, all of you are welcome to join us. I want to send a shout out here to everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo, my man Black Voltron. Thank you very much for your support, brother. As always, we appreciate that. Shy Citizen, Objectively Biased, Mogul Maze, Bad Guy, and everybody else here. Walter Wilburn, thank you very much for your support. We're going to take a very brief non-commercial break. When we come back, I want to go ahead and address one more thing about taking our cultural legacy by force. You want to update your files about reparations and how the message has gotten around. We're going to do that as well. Stick with us here. We'll be right back after this very brief non-commercial break. This is The Black Channel.
Hello, my name is Steve Burgess, and I'm a certified elementary school teacher and have been for 23 years. I'm the author of this book, Guidelines for the Successful Student, a closer look at parenting your school-aged child. In this book, I've explained the role of the parent and the student, in addition to what accommodations, procedures, rewards and consequences and expectations that need to be in place to ensure student success from primary to high school. This book is available on on Amazon.com. For more information, please visit my link tree at Easy One-on-One. And to access my latest podcast, A Teaching Moment with Mr. B.
A white supremacist assassin seeks revenge. Corrupt FBI agents with evil intentions. Dangerous black collaborators dedicated to treason. Occam Jeffers must defeat them all and somehow survive. One misstep and he's a dead man. Join Occam Jeffers as he looks the devil in his blue eyes and tells him, Black first. A sequel to the underground hit War of the Heart, Spirit of 1811 Publishing presents God Love Us, on sale at Amazon. Pre-order and save today. Visit spirit of1811publishing.com and show your love.
More Threads. A brand owned by a descendant of Black American freedmen was created to uniquely address Black American history and contributions that have been intentionally hidden and suppressed. Use their apparel and more to learn and share the Black American history of Black inventions, heroes, towns, Black business districts, and more. Sign up and support not only a Black-owned business, but a movement at www.morethread.co.
Order yours today to experience all the benefits of Ash Kickin' Natural Body Butter with skin so smooth and soft, you'll thank us for it. Shop Ash Kickin' online. That's ASHKICKIN.com.
Hi, this is Brenda Starr, creator of Poetry with a Purpose and author of the book Pressed But Not Crushed. Pressed But Not Crushed is an anthology of political poems that address current and historical issues in American descendants of slave population and African American population. The book describes slaveries and its residuals, Jim Crow segregation, social depredation, and other relevant issues to American descendants of slaves and African Americans, including the current political climate that does not address our issues.
This is the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. Very glad to be with you all here this evening. And as we update your files about these things here, you're hearing a lot of things out there. You hear a lot of things about reparations, for example. You hear people claiming who should get it and who should not. And one of the things in particular here was in California. Because remember, they tell you that we shouldn't get Black folk and reparations shouldn't get reparations in California because, well, nothing happened to you and whatnot. That's the kind of thing that they say, if you'll remember. That's the kind of thing that they say. They say those kinds of things. But then if you go and take a closer look into stuff, slowly but surely you're seeing that the story and the narrative is getting broken down. California's earliest black, this is from NBC, California's earliest black settlers bought land only for it to be stolen. Their descendants want it back. Former slaves who came to California mined for gold and bought property only for their land to be stolen or seized. Their families generations later say it's time for a reckoning. By Curtis Bunn. It had been 9 months since Yolanda Tyloo Owens unearthed her ancestors' history by researching her family tree. But one evening, quietly sitting at the foot of her bed in her home in Sacramento, California, an idea flashed in her mind. Quote, "It was like my ancestors spoke to me," Owens said. "It was so out of the blue, but it was clear I should search to see if my great-great-great-grandfather had any land." She scrambled for her laptop. Within minutes, she had to sit back in her chair to process what she had learned. Quote, "It was there, plain as day. There were 4 deeds in his name. He owned land, and not just anywhere, but in Napa, California, America's best-known wine-growing region, replete with its symbols of wealth and beauty. 3 of the deeds showed her ancestor, Edward Hatton, owned prime real estate on Main Street in downtown Napa. A fourth deed covered 209 acres in the nearby mountains. Owen's discovery, both that her ancestor owned land and that it was most likely taken away, highlights one component of the state's effort to consider paying reparations to Black Californians. By the way, here are the pictures of the folk that we were just talking about here. Mr. Edward Hatton on the right and his descendant, Yolanda Owens, on the left. It goes on here to say, as you can see, she's going over documents. California's founding involved the often violent acquisition and theft of land from native people, including an 1851 order from the state's first governor that a, quote, war of extermination would be waged until, quote, the Indian race becomes extinct, according to the Los Angeles Times. While California was not officially a slave state, it welcomed bringing in enslaved Africans to work and dig for gold. Now, this is not Jason Black saying this. This is not Tariq Nasheed saying this. This is not Professor Black Truth saying this. Though we have been saying this for years, this isn't us saying it. Maybe now people will stop resisting it now that we've kept up the drumbeat for so long. Now NBC News is saying what the new black media has been saying forever and what our warrior scholars have been saying forever. This isn't hidden history. This is concealed history. And now NBC is saying what we've been saying the whole time. Now everybody's going to go from, that ain't right. That ain't never happened. Now it's going to be, of course it's true. Absolutely, that's right. Y'all wasn't the first to say it. So all this time they were resisting us, but now it's going to flip to something else. All right. While California was not officially a slave state, it welcomed bringing in enslaved Africans to work and dig for gold. In many cases, those men were able to buy their freedom from the gold they found and, in a short period, purchase land and build what could have been generational wealth. Now, by the way, buying your freedom, obviously that's going to come with an asterisk to it because these were not indentured servants. That their land was taken away from them or that the landowners were forced to flee because of violent acts crystallizes the dilemma and the arduous pursuit some black families face in the reverberations of California's reparations efforts for the harms slavery inflicted on black residents of the state. The stolen land could be worth millions, and the family's efforts to reacquire it as the rightful heirs are steadfast. They view getting the land not only as a chance to earn financial compensation, but also as a matter of principle. The reversion of stolen land is likely to be one of many recommendations the California Reparations Task Force will make by July 1st, but some families are taking the lead on their own fate. Quote, no one's going to do it for us, Owens said. To Owens and others, the bottom line is clear. Their ancestors' land was unjustly taken from them and they want it back. Quote, there are not a whole lot of stories like this because the priority of enslaved blacks who were brought to California was to get away, said John Faisler, the author of the book California, a Slave State. Now let's be very, very clear. That's not an accurate statement because you can go across America here. You don't have a bunch of black folk from California who migrated somewhere else. The migration was to California, to Chicago, to New York. So let's be very, very clear. That's not really an accurate statement. You want to get away from folk enslaving you, but they didn't sit up here and run around the damn country. There's none of us in the Deep South who are like, yeah, our relatives came down here from California. There's a bunch of folks in California that their kinfolk, most black folk in California, who are not immigrants, their kinfolk came from the Deep South to California. Those of us in the South and the Midwest, we don't have anybody here. My folks came here from California. We didn't have our track shoes on like that. He goes on to say here, these men were brought out, but their families were still held hostage on the plantations. So it was much more about finding jobs or starting a business so they could make enough money to buy their families. But there were some bold, ambitious black people who did buy land, and in many cases their land was taken from them, often in heartbreaking ways. Here are the stories of 3 black families who are grappling with legacies of seized land and lost generational wealth. The Hatton family in Napa. Edward Hatton migrated from Norfolk, Virginia to Napa in the mid-1850s with other formerly enslaved people. He became a 49er, a gold miner. His son Joseph and grandson Edward followed suit and earned their places as respected black men in Northern California. The eldest Hatton became the first black barber in Napa and a gold mine owner. Owens found documents that indicated Hatton owned the 3 lots in downtown Napa where a park and September 11th memorial now rests, she said. She acquired the papers from the Napa County Clerk's office for the lots downtown that show the land remains in Edward Hatton's name. She acquired the papers from the Napa County Clerk's office for the lots downtown that show the land remains in Edward Hatton's name. Quote, it has not been bought or sold, she said. Napa officials did not find any other deeds on the property. As for the large piece of land in the outskirts of Napa, Owens and said the Hattons bought the 209 acres for $1,500 in February 1885. Which doesn't sound like a lot now, but that's a huge sum back then. According to her research from various documents and news clippings, white people wanted the land. And in 1893, a white woman, oh hell, here we go. A white woman claimed the Hattons had defaulted on a $400 payment. The land was later put up for auction at a court hearing at which the Hattons were not present. The woman bought it and then sold it to the county treasurer at the price she had paid for it. This sounds like good old-fashioned money laundering. Quote, the treasurer, who had already owned other large parts of that mountain, put the land in her own name. And that was that, Owens said. They stole it. So one white woman got together with another white woman and they facilitated this phony purchasing of property. Not under the legal law, but under the I'm white and I say so law. We're white, we say so, we'll steal your land, there'll be no proof whatsoever to justify it, and the system will back us. That is what we mean by $1 million of whiteness. There isn't a single black person back then or today who could have done and gotten away with the same thing. They would have been stopped you. Quote, soon an upscale restaurant the Hattons owned, the Arcade, was burned down, Owens said, and her ancestors fled Napa. Thomas Mitchell, a Boston College Law School professor, said that once black people began to acquire land after having been enslaved, it was considered the norm in the years following the end of slavery for that land to be seized without provocation or justifiable reasons, quote, for it was considered better and higher economic use of the property. The practice underscored, quote, that notion that we had to accept that black people's lives are just not that important, end quote, said Thomas, a 2020 MacArthur Fellow. Quote, their property ownership, their communities are not as important. They should be at the ready to have their rights sacrificed for the greater good. I don't like it when folks talk like that. You need to put it in very stark terms. White supremacy was stealing land from the former slaves, which is our argument for reparations, that you cannot stop it at 1864 or 1868 or 1869 because the system and the process continued after the Civil War, after the ratification of 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. The whole system kept going. It was abolished in name, but in name only. In practice, it continued going, and the government condoned the common law practice of it. So therefore, the meter and the tab against that grievance is still running until you entirely, completely stop doing what you were doing. The meter and the tab continue to run. You will not say, well, let's go to the end of the Civil War. Actually, no. The 1890 census simply tells us who was there at that time. Going forward, though, your crimes still keep going. So what you owe those people from 1890 and back, as if you continue doing that, then it keeps going. That's your compounding interest. In 1867, Edward Hatton wrote a letter to the editor of The Elevator, a defunct local black newspaper, that said in part, quote, "Why should we of this state be treated with so much injustice? Are we not as intelligent as any class of the community? And are we not taxed as well as others? Why this distinction? I think it is time we should be doing something for ourselves." So he's saying the same thing that we're saying now. They steal from black folk. They take our tax dollars and build freeways that run right over our houses. They take our tax dollars and give it to illegal aliens. They take our tax dollars and give it to white folk to develop it. We're paying taxes. We've always been paying taxes and not getting the benefit of them. We get targeted by our own tax dollars. The Blue family in Sacramento. Les Robinson had to leave a family cookout to compose himself. A cousin told him to look up an ancestor on his phone, Daniel Blue. Robinson had never heard of him, but a search revealed the longtime pastor in the Sacramento area who was integral to the region's black community. Robinson learned that his great-great-grandfather was brought to Sacramento in 1849 as an enslaved man from Kentucky by John Daughtery, the son of his enslaver. So to anyone telling you, well, California was not a slave state, yes, it was. If it is honoring the practice of slavery and allowing it to go on, you're a slave state. Blue, 53 at the time. 53 years old. Worked as a gold miner and discovered enough gold to buy his freedom and become an entrepreneur. I bet you they thought, damn, never should have brought that nigga down here. Opening a dry cleaners and starting a church in his home and later a standalone structure. That church, St. Andrew's AME Church, was founded in 1850, and it remains the West Coast's oldest continuous African Methodist Episcopal congregation. Blue also started a school for Black, Latino, Asian American, and Native American children. Let's hear it for that beautiful humanity. And he bought property, lots of it. 60 acres, according to Robinson, including 9 blocks in Sacramento, California's capital documents show. By the way, just think about this for a few moments. Even back then, when black people were in positions of power, you can do things for other people. We've been doing that. They would have you believe we just been struggling and that was it. Oh, hell no. We had other folk benefiting from us. Not government programs benefiting from us. Across the board. No wonder you don't want us back in that position. It goes on to say here that on that property today, Robinson said, stands the California Railroad Museum, the Amtrak station, Sacramento Rail Yard, the courthouse, and the Sacramento County Jail. But the question looms, quote, what happened to the property? We don't know, Robinson said. He said his research told a familiar, unnerving story, that the property was taken. Quote, I've been told that it was taken because the railroad needed that land to complete the transcontinental connection, Robinson said. So he basically was booted out and burned out as intimidation by whites who did not welcome freed blacks turned violent. They don't do that to the illegals, by the way. One of them is part of the plan. The other one is not. Part of the school was burned down and rebuilt before eventually it closed years later. Blue's house was burned in 1869. There was a failed attempt to burn down the church too, Robinson said. Mitchell said the seizing of property by citizens, law enforcement, or the government comes with an additional injustice beyond stunting generational wealth. It destroys culture and history. Quote, whether you're talking about Harlem or Southwest Georgia, there's often an erasure of important culture and history, Mitchell said. Much of what Robinson and others in his family have discovered is documented in newspapers, articles, and other periodicals, which makes it frustrating for Robinson that he cannot locate deeds or ownership documentation. They have not yet presented their findings to state or local officials yet, preferring to do more research and hear what the Reparations Task Force has to say about seized land. But they are clear about what happened. Quote, it was obviously taken, Robinson said. He was a smart man. He wouldn't give away 60 acres of land. Robinson is working on a book about his ancestor that sums up what having the land returned to him and his family would mean. Yes, he wants the land for its financial value, but also for its sentimental value. Robinson, who founded the church in 1999, said the revelations about his ancestor resonate in a tangible way. Looking back and seeing what his ancestor accomplished, quote, I see parallels in our life, even not ever having known him. When I found him, I met him. And we have the same spirit. I am doing what he would want me to do. The Burgess family, Coloma, California. Quote, it was exhausting for John Burgess when he learned that an ancestor had been the hangman in the 1800s in Coloma, a small community about 55 miles northeast of Sacramento where his family lineage traces. Quote, that's not something you want to see, and it floored me for 2 days, Burgess said. It was the price of digging into his family's history. Burgess and his twin brother Matthew have been floored for the last 5 years for another reason. In the family Bible, where many black families used to document significant moments of family members' lives, Burgess discovered that his great-great-great-grandfather, Rufus Burgess, shout out Rufus, was one of the state's first black gold miners, and that he built wealth and bought land in California at the end of slavery, intent on its staying in the family for future generations. Using eminent domain, the city seized much of the 420 acres, Burgess said. Much of the land he wants to reclaim is Marshall Gold Discovery State Historic Park in Coloma. Burgess has testified before the California Reparations Task Force, posted short videos on Instagram about his family findings to educate followers, and connected with Governor Gavin Newsom about the subject. Quote, I'm just trying to get people to empathize with the fact that we had an inheritance that was supposed to remain in our family for years per those deeds, and yet it was stripped away, he said. Burgess possesses the deed to the land. Documentation he believes that when it is properly reviewed will stand up in court, particularly because there is no record of his ancestors selling the land, he said. Quote, if we didn't have the deed, it would be just another story, which is true, because for most black folk, it's just another story. They make sure in Wilmington, North Carolina, they made the librarians are fighting against people. They are looking up records about what they did to us in Wilmington. They're fighting the records there. They're fighting that. So you're lucky when you got the records, because in a lot of other places they've gotten rid of the records. Oh, we can't find that. Oh well, finders keepers. What's next for reparations? The story for all these families is unfinished. They hope their gathered documentation will yield a result similar to that of Bruce's Beach in Southern California, where Los Angeles County seized land in Manhattan Beach purchased in 1912 by a black couple, Charles and Willa Bruce. White residents led a petition to have their resort for black people condemned in 1927 and turned into a park. It was returned to the Bruce family last year. The family sold it back to the county for $20 million. The cases are not parallel to that of Bruce's Beach, but it elicits hope for these descendants, especially as California considers reparations in such an aggressive manner. Burgess's case has been acknowledged by the California Task Force as similarly valid to that of Bruce's Beach, and may be included in its final report and list of recommendations, which will be issued to the legislature at the end of June. Quote, land and property are things that my pioneer ancestors did not sell or take for granted because they knew the value coming from slave plantations, making others wealthy for generations, all behind land, Burgess said. Generational wealth means my family and descendants would have the same, if not more, than the Bogle family, Veerkamp family, Gallagher family, Del Monte family, and a host of others who came here with nothing prior to 1870 and were left to prosper, but also allowed equal protection by the laws. And then you've got some scum-sucking, cross-cultural bastardess like Kamala Harris here to ply her trade of despicable deceit. That's what you end up with. You end up with that. However, you might disagree. Therefore, the telephone lines are now open. The number is 646-787-1933. That's 646-787-1933. Your personal access code to the blackest radio program in existence, the only one of its kind on planet Earth today. As always, you are welcome to join us. Thank you to everyone here who has contributed to support tonight's program on CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. Let me get to the phone lines. Caller from area code 469. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
This Thomas calling from Dallas, Texas.
All right, Thomas from Dallas. What's on your mind?
Yeah, Jason. I mean, you're really hitting the point on that California. You really don't have to go back that far. I mean, you look at Nipsey Hussle, man. I mean, his property was targeted by the California police for a long time, man, before he was murdered, and that was suspect. You know, I don't believe that was just something that just came out the blue of him getting murdered by just that clown. Yeah, that was a lot going on because his property is in prime location of that stadium they built. So yeah, they've been doing that, and I mean recent. So yeah, that's been going on, and they're not going to stop. I mean, black people that own properties in California, they all in good prime location. You got to watch out because they're going to target you no matter what.
This is the American way. The whole thing is to stall us for decades and generations. That's how diabolical they are. So that if we ever did get into a position to be able to challenge these injustices, they were hoping that most of our bloodlines would be dead by then. Remember, folks, when I told you over a decade and a half ago that when you have a class of slaves, ultimately you have to exterminate them because they constitute an ever-escalating threat. They constitute an ever-escalating threat. So you're going to have to liquidate them when it's over. If you don't, this will come back to bite you. So when they stole the land, when they stole everything and took everything, the goal was that we would not be here to take it back. We had outlived our usefulness. You won't be here to demand it be returned. Your heirs won't be here. We're going to hold out so long, there won't be anybody left. So just remember, it was never supposed to be part of the plan that any of us were supposed to be here to dispute this or refute this. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 559. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Well, my name is Cameron. I'm calling from L.A.
Cameron from L.A. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. Mr. Jason Black, I've been listening to you for a number of years, man. I really like what you do, man. You're a straight shooter. I want to say that when I was in college, man, I went to college in upstate California, and it's about 15 years ago, and I got introduced to Neely Fuller Jr. He on some video I heard him when I was in the library studying, put his phone number out. and I called his number, and he answered. It's like 15 years ago. Since then, I've been having like these private conversations with him. I learned everything about white supremacy that I know now from him. But there were a few things over the years that I said, man, I can't agree with that. Now, one thing that he says when he talks about, of course, white supremacy is the most dominant. They're the most dominant people on the planet. I understand that, but I have to make mention to him that, sir, growing up in Los Angeles, I've been getting in fist fights with Mexicans. I've been beating Mexicans up my whole life. You know what I mean? Because they've been against black people. And to this day, when I go back to L.A., where I'm from, there's no more black people. So I told him, I said, these people, Mr. Fuller, are not, they're not in the same position as black people. I know you got everybody that's non-white under the same banner, but I said, these people are different from black people. These people are competitors with the white supremacists, because if these people
the word wouldn't be competitors, it would be collaborators. So definitely, I absolutely and like I say, I've been pointing that out for years and whatnot. And shout out to Neely Fuller, but definitely this would be an era. This would be an area right here that just as strictly as an observation. He may have his philosophy about that and ideology about that, but this is one of those areas where the facts are pretty clear in this regard. We cannot lump ourselves together with everybody else because they don't see themselves as being with us. They're not with us in practice. And even it's not a matter of what they believe or what they don't believe. They are ideologically opposed to us. So in that case that's definitely an area that requires some updating of it, because it's factually and practically impractical to try to lump them together and to try to get their minds right about it. You're going to have to accept their minds are already right. Their minds are already straight. And if you don't accept that, then you just kind of spin yourself in circles. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller area code 951. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yeah, this is David from Southern California, San Bernardino in particular.
David from San Bernardino, what's on your mind?
Yeah, man, I remember this when they did this with jazz music. Back when Kenny G won, they gave him Best Album, gave him a Grammy, and Herbie Hancock immediately said, oh, yeah, okay, if that's the case, we're going to go back old school, and let's see if Kenny G can play that. This is basically what white supremacy does. It makes these statements and basically just throw it up against the wall and see what sticks, okay? And they leave.
Well, it's about pushing a
campaign.
It's about pushing a campaign. The Grammys, the Oscars, the Emmys, the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the National Academy of the Arts, Library of Congress. They're all in on it together to craft and mold what is American culture. Remember, America's biggest, most popular export is American culture itself. Coca-Cola, Levi's, urban wear, hip hop, that is America's biggest export. And whoever has the legitimate, if you want to know what a luxury product is, a luxury product by definition simply means handcrafted and legitimate. If you all want the distilled definition of a luxury product, it is handcrafted and legitimate. And whoever controls the legitimacy of this thing, of a thing, gets to control the profitability and marketability. Kenny G was the recipient, as you know, of a campaign to instill him out there. That was a campaign that was done to promote him and legitimize him. And they didn't really legitimize him so much as popularize him. Well, yeah, when you put that much money behind him and that much promotion behind him, and he was never really stunningly profitable like that either, but this was a long-term strategy to divorce black people from jazz music and replace it. And that's exactly what the campaign was intended to do. So we've seen it over and over again since Elvis. Hell, Jerry Lee Lewis, we can go back before that. We've seen it over and over again. It is a strategy, and the strategy continues. I'll let you have the last word.
Yeah, and I hear all these people, coming in talking about, Hispanics, had a big part to play in hip hop. And if you look at the music, rap music came basically from George Clinton and Bootsy Collins. I said, if you go back, you can see that the rap artists, they were the first ones who were sampling George Clinton and Bootsy Collins. And basically disco came up because I've seen some documentaries that have stated George Clinton was about to take over the music industry with funk music, and that's why they came out with disco music to stop him from taking it over.
Well, you know,
And
I would give one addendum to that though, because this is something that predates that. When we add different elements to it, if we tell ourselves that, you know, rap or hip hop is involving turntables, I think that's a fallacious statement to make. That I think that's another element that's added to it. That's another element. If you take a look at other forms of music, you wouldn't say, okay, it's got to have these types of elements, or at a certain point we added this element over here and now it's something else. That's not really the way that's not really the way you treat anthropology. When it comes to tools, for example, you know, that's not the way you treat anthropology when it comes to tools, when it comes to craftsmanship. It's not treated that way when you're dealing with other art forms. But when it comes to this, I think we do a tremendous disservice to say, okay, if you got turntables and a mix board at that point, or sampling, now this is where it begins. We don't treat anything else that way. When you talk about rock music, for example, we literally don't treat anything else that way. So I think it would be fallacious for us to do that. If you get to the nuts and bolts of it there, you know, the as DOC said, the rhythm and poetry, I think right there, you've got your fundamentals right there. Now, if, for example, you've got R&B songs, always have, that have some rapper that does like a bridge or an interlude into it, would you say that that is not rap music? Okay, you can say that's not rap music, but you can't say he's not rapping. Like Dr. Dre on Michelle A's Nicety. Well, yeah, that's not a rap song, but you can't say that what he's doing on that song isn't rapping. Yeah, her song is not a rap song, but what he's doing, yeah, that is rapping. Whether he's got an independent album or an independent song or not, therefore the art form is in existence already. Right there. Even if it's not its own independent entity in the form of a song or an album that's specifically framed around that. Like that's what I'm saying. If you think about that for a few moments, we don't treat anything else that way. If I said, what's a guitar solo? You wouldn't say, well, if they're using an electric guitar, you would say if they're using a guitar, period. Yeah. So you can kick that all the way back to a banjo if you really want to go there with it. So that's why I say, I think if we really get into the nuts and bolts of it, you're talking about something that is not years or decades old. You're dealing with something that's closer to a century old. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Something that's a century old that has had elements added to us. You've had elements added to it. So that's what I'm telling you all. If you think about modern music, you wouldn't say that, you know, Migos being on a song or with a singer or something, or, you know, whoever it is, you wouldn't say that that's J. Cole being on a song with Janet Jackson. Well, no, that's not her song isn't a rap song, but what he's doing on the song, that is rapping. Well, when you think of it that way, then we go all the way back past Cab Calloway. We go back even earlier than Cab Calloway and Duke Ellington. What I'm doing is I'm giving you all the cultural, ideological teaching here so that you understand how that works. And I'm not just making this up. What I'm saying, as musicians, we understand this. You're just adding elements to it. Well, you took out the jazz stuff, but then again, you added it back again. Guru. Who's got Guru's album Jazzmatazz? No, not the phony New York heads. Guru's album Jazzmatazz. You want one for that? You can go look that up. Guru, when he left Gangstar, he made a few albums called Jazzmatazz. I think he had one with Kim. I want to say my favorite song I think was Selection. Connection. I'm sorry, Connection. Guru has a song on his album Jazzmatazz called Connection. By the way, you're welcome. For those of you who hadn't heard that one, you're welcome. So yeah, we went from rapping on on a jazz beat with Cab Calloway and going on almost a century later, here's Guru doing it again. And he's not the only one. So what I'm saying is, okay, if it's legitimately, if this is rap on Guru's Jazzmatazz album, how is it not with Cab Calloway? Explain to me how that's not. Caller Miracle 770, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Jason, this is Gary out of Atlanta, one of the day ones. I just wanted to say I appreciate you, brother. I'm glad to see you explore this conversation. I seen a reel on Instagram, for example, and it's called a brother's rapping a song called Chicken and Fried Rice. And right now, like all the Asian people are using that music for their videos. And I find it ironic that they call us out saying that we treat them wrong, but on the flip side, they're using a black man's song to promote them and their fried rice. Even their own rapper, Jin, I don't know if anybody remember him back in the day, but even he couldn't even get a popular song out. So I find it amazing, like how they jack our culture, but then on the flip side, they want to disrespect us.
Well, like I say, you're going to have to demand and respect. Respect is not given, respect is earned, and after it's earned, it must be demanded and enforced. If you allow people to dilute it, if you allow people to divest you from it, if you allow people to disenfranchise you from it, it's going to happen. If you have something valuable, people, there's a reason why you have bank vaults. When you have something valuable, people are going to try to get it away from you. They're going to try to talk you out of it. They're going to try to finesse you out of it. They're going to try to negotiate you out of it. They're going to try to bully you out of it. And if all else fails, then they're going to try to just take it by force. You must accept if you have something valuable, you will have to fight to keep it. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller Miracle 202. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
This is me, Mr. Jason Black. How you doing, man? This is the Buck Horse.
All right, Buck Horse, what's on your mind?
Man, I love your broadcast, man. I be listening to you. Sometimes I don't say shit to you, though. But, man, this is the Buck Horse in D.C., man. I respect you. That's it. And I got to buy all your documentaries. I'm about to buy REAP documentaries or whatever. Also, too, Mr. Black, I agree with everything that you're talking about. The thing is that we need to absolutely get down with ourselves, boycott, and make sure that we get that anti-black hate crime bill. That's it, and that's all. I see what's going on. Thank you, Mr. Black.
Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Let me get caller from area code 442. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from area code 442 has been abducted. Caller from area code 215. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hi, Jason. This is Trinessa from Philadelphia.
Trinessa from Philadelphia. What's on your mind?
Yes. I wanted to just make note on 2 points. One was about the cultural misappropriation. I was listening to NPR today, and my blood seemed to boil a little bit. They talked about, there was a guy from who's the vice president of Pictionary, and they were adding American words to the lexicon, and they said something about the word John. And they said, oh, this is a Philadelphia word, and this is now part of the American language. And I said, John, what is John? And I said, did they mean the John? And that's the way we would actually speak in Philly. We would say, oh, that's the John. You know, the younger generation, they say John. And then when I was younger, we said, that's the John. And I said, you're adding it to the dictionary, and you don't even know how to pronounce it.
You're adding it to the dictionary, and immediately, this is called corruption of language. And it happens throughout all cultures, throughout history. But yeah, as soon as it left our hand, it's immediately gotten corrupted. Just that quickly.
That's true. That's true. And I had to replay it a couple times because I couldn't believe it. And the guy's name was John, who was the vice president of Pictionary. And he kept pronouncing it like his own name. And I said, oh, my goodness, there's no culture here.
As I said,
ridiculous.
If you are going to retain it, you're going to have to fight for it, period. Thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Just that quickly, you're going to lose it. If you don't fight for it just that quickly, you will lose it. Caller from area code 416, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello? Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Okay, you're not paying attention. Caller from area code 703, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
TB calling out of Fairfax, Virginia.
TB out of Fairfax, what's on your mind?
Jason, you said many moons ago that those of us here are part of the elites. And when you first said it, and, you know, I didn't take ownership of it, you know what I mean? And I still don't, you know what I'm saying, to an extent. But I watch as the major news outlets, the politicians, everybody of substance, they respond directly to what your message is and all of the members of the new black media. And I just want to say thank you. You know what I'm saying? I'm riding for you. But at that time, I didn't believe it myself. Everything else out there is trash in comparison to you guys. And I learn from you every chance I get. I learn something every time I listen to you open your mouth. And I just want to put that in layman's terms, and I appreciate you, brother.
Well, I thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. Please do give us a call again. Let me get caller from area code 301. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Yes, sir. My name is Marshall. I'm calling from Richmond, Virginia.
Marshall from Richmond, what's on your mind?
Yeah, piggybacking on the early rap that was done in jazz, I totally agree with you on that. But I remember as a child, I'm 56 years old. I remember the first time I heard the Temptation song, Ball of Confusion. They were straight up rapping.
Oh,
remember that?
Dude, if we can go back all the way to Cab Calloway, we can go back before that for those of us in the South. You can really go back to some of the, when you start talking about stuff from the era of the old 100s, when you start talking about that, some of that stuff is a cappella. For those of you who really know your stuff about that, let me just tell you, we can go back way before that. We can go back as far, we can really go back as far as you want to go in reality. If we're talking about our cultural expression, not just that, we're not just sitting up saying gobbledygook, and we're not just sitting up saying, you know, babble. They're talking about their lives. They're talking about their experiences. They're talking about some street stuff that's happening. They talking about stuff in the streets, you know, like when you talk about Cab Calloway and Minnie the Moocher, you know, we're talking about street stuff here. And that's how you go from there. That I can show you a direct connection from the slave fields to the message. I can show you a direct connection that threads through all of those, specifically from our experience here.
Yes, I agree. And if you go back and watch some of the old films of the 1920s in the jazz hall, they was breakdancing then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of the essential elements are there. Whether you're talking about b-boying, breakdancing, rapping, you know, all the rapping to a beat, all of the essential core elements are there. Everything else is just added to it. The turntables are just added to that. The mixer is added to that. Hell, the bigger speakers are just added to that. Yeah, you got tribal drums in Africa, but they ain't doing what we were doing. And you can't say that we got it from them, because the first thing that the slave owners did here was divorce you from your African ancestry. That was outlawed. So you can't say we got it from them. You can't say that. We were forced to create something new and novel of our own. We were not allowed to have anything else. So we had to literally make that from the soil. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Now let me get caller area code 862. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. This is Jonathan Edwards from Asheboro, North Carolina.
Okay, Jonathan, if you are on the speakerphone, you need to take it off. Your voice is real hollow.
Okay, hold on. Okay. Is that better?
Yeah, what's on your mind?
Well, yeah, I was just listening to what you were saying about, like, the Cab Calloway era and the syncopation and the rhythmic rhymes and all of that stuff has always been a part of the lexicon of even how we spoke. If you go back and look at, like, what Malcolm X in the movies, look at the Malcolm X movie, you look at how him and Spike Lee, they had like a separate language that the Zoot Suiters were wearing, that daddy old, all of that stuff had rhythm to it. It had sway. It had, and we never circled the wagons around all of this stuff and kept people out of it. We always allow people to come in and caricaturize it and make fun of it. So, you end up with Jim Carrey wearing the mask and zoot suit, and when that was a part of our culture that, he's going to make a comic about it, he's going to make a joke about it.
You're going to have to protect the elements of your culture. You have to protect it. First of all, we have to embrace it. This idea, but you can't embrace what you don't know. So if you don't even know what the zoot suits are, then and where they come from, then you don't know anything. And if you do get introduced to it, they tell you those are Latinos. No, it's not. No, it's not.
No.
Case in point, when we were kids, everybody remembers, I got to remind you all, you can go on YouTube and look it up, from the Tom and Jerry cartoons. Shout out. Everybody going to jump up now. Zoot Suit Tom. Zoot Suit Tom. Is you is or is you ain't my baby. You know, baby. Let me tell you, the white men who animated that, they know where the hell they got that from. They didn't get that from no Latinos. They know where they got the instant you hear Tom sitting up there singing "Is You Is" or "Is You Ain't My Baby," you know that came from the soil. You know where that came from. So this is why we have to teach that, because the schools are not going to teach it. Even if it could be part of the curriculum, they're going to kick that out. It's like, oh no, because what you're telling your children is, wait a minute, that goes back a century. You mean we built the foundation that all this is on. Now you start seeing yourself differently.
And one of the keys of it all is that any culture, anything that's cultural, has to be curated. You have to have a space and a place, and you have to have people in charge that gather this stuff and they guard against it being appropriated. This thing with Kamala is sickening, because hip hop didn't start in LA. So I don't know where she got this nonsense from.
Well, I mean, she's saying she's saying it's been a part of the
start of hip hop.
She's saying it's been she's saying it was a hard. Well, you're talking about Oakland, I think, but she's saying it's been her whole life. But the real thing is, she wasn't involved in it. She was a Brahmin Indian with the dot on her head. So, thank you very much for giving us a call tonight. She's rewriting her history in real damn time. She really, really is. It's crazy. Caller from area code 317. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, how you doing tonight, Mr. Black? My name's Chris from Indianapolis.
Chris from Indianapolis, what's on your mind?
One of the things I am noticing lately is how I am starting to see a lot of our culture being stolen with commercials. I did see like a Korean lady online trying to make soul food. And the thing about it, she was making it for her father, and there was like no black people in the room whatsoever. But also, I like what the new black media is doing by exposing all of this, because what we are getting to look at now that we didn't get to look at back in the day is how they will go out of their way to lie, steal, and hide our culture from us and who we are.
Well, if they are allowed
So,
to do so,
that's-
because what we have is valuable and it concretes our claim. It legitimizes our claim when you show everything we did, and then people start asking, wait a minute, what happened to it? It didn't die a natural death. It was a victim of homicide. Thank you very much for giving me a call here tonight. Folks, I'm just going to say something right now real quick. There's a reason why I don't really want certain folks talking in chat rooms and things. People just say things just to be saying things. They really, really do. I'm not going to say your name, but to the ADHD crack baby in the chat room talking about YouTube took down Zoot Suit Tom. I mean, I don't know. The meth is real, but the crack is realer. I guess it is. For those of you who never saw this, by the way, for those of us who are a little bit older, those of you in your 20s or 30s, if you never saw Tom and Jerry Zoot Suit, you see it's a Zoot Cat, check it out for yourselves.
Jackson! What's jumping, chick?
What's jumping, chick? Come on now. I gotta be careful. YouTube is probably gonna copyright strike the hell out of me and start interrupting the stream. Y'all just saw that. What's happening, chick? Come on now. These are the white folk who were scared when they saw Elvis Presley swinging his hips. Come on. You know where that comes from. That type of swag. Well, show me Fred Astaire doing that. Show me Elvis Presley. Who were the white men who talked like that? Who were they? Tell me who the white men were. The white Latinos who talk like that. If you say Latinos did it, it was the black ones. Show me the white people who were talking like this.
What's jumping, chick?
And this probably constitutes the first, one, and only time that Tom ever got over on Jerry. You damn right he got to plug into the soil.
You're really a sharp character. A mellow little fella. Now you call him a jive. You're on the right side, you alligator, you. Slip me some skin, my friend. Well, I'll root, well, all right.
Slip me some skin? Folks, come on now. Now, is she talking like a white girl? Come on now. Look, let's get serious. Let's get serious. What are you talking about, man?
Let's take a little righteous jive. Do you hear me? Latch on, Jackson. We're off.
Now, please remember, this is from 1944. We're talking about World War II era. This is from 1944. Oh, hell, YouTube's about to hit me, y'all. YouTube is about to hit me. Let me go ahead and break this up for a minute. YouTube's about to hit me. I want to do the is you is or is you ain't, but YouTube about to get me. They just put the little banner up here to let, we warning you, nigga, you better back up off of this. YouTube's about to hit me. So YouTube about to give me the business. They said, hey, you better ease up off of that. Jason, you doing the most. You doing the most. You better ease up off of it. Let me go ahead and skip forward. Let me skip forward for a minute. The man is on me. The man is on me. YouTube's just sent me the kite and say, hey, back up. I want to get to the is you is.
I love you. When I'm with you,
What the hell? Wrong one. I forget what the damn thing is in there. It's been decades. If I ever find the damn thing, is you ain't my baby, because the whole song is on there. By the way, Jerry's a hater. Jerry is such a hater.
I can feel it now. It is burning. Burning.
Oh, YouTube is hitting me again. I better stop. Let me go ahead and stop. You all can go look it up for yourselves. It's on YouTube. You can go ahead and see that. They are such a hater. YouTube is hating on me. I'm going to take a few more calls here. Let me get caller from area code 757. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Caller from 757 has been abducted.
Hello.
Okay, well,
Hello?
nigga, wake up. What is your name? Where you calling from?
Rashad from Norfolk, Virginia.
All right, what's on your mind, Rashad?
I'm calling in because I'm feeling everything you talk about tonight because there's a reason why hip hop is a Black American thing because it comes from the soil, it comes from the ground, like it comes from the people, it comes from the street, it comes from the source. So like when Kamala talking about Eminem, it don't even sound right. It sounds goofy because Eminem is just a white boy imitating what Black people been doing for a long time.
But this is the whole point of bringing in buffer classes is to get you comfortable and acclimated to that which cannot be. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Okay, folks, let me go ahead and get this last copyright strike. I'm about to get copyright struck to hell, but it's for a good damn cause. You wanted it, you got it.
Anytime we have a date, but I love her, I'm gonna ask her, is you is or is you ain't my baby? The way you acting lately makes me down. You is still my baby, baby. See my fling in your heart's done gone out.
There it is. For those of you who are children, you didn't know, you never seen it. Zoot Suit Tom and Is You Is or Is You Ain't My Baby. You tell me that was American culture. Or was that our culture? Did that come from the fields? Did that come from the streets? Did that come from the descendants? Did that come from the foundation and the freedmen? Or did that come from the Caribbean? Did that come from Africa? You tell me where that just came from. You tell me what part outside of our experience in American society that came from. I'll wait. Caller from area code 804, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Ben, Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, Ben in Richmond. Did you call in already, Ben?
No.
Okay.
There was another Richmond guy that called, though.
All right, what's on your mind?
Well, just to confirm what you were saying about MTV in those early days, they were anti-Black music. They made us wait up to late hours of the night to see Michael Jackson. They made us wait to see any hip-hop videos for many, many, many years. Kurt Loder was the main one leading the charge in anti-Blackness on music television. It's hard to fathom now, but those of us that not quite a half century, but approaching a half century, remember it very well.
Absolutely. Gladys Knight talked about that years ago. She was talking about that then. So there's a reason why when MTV started up and whatnot, they brought over a bunch of Brits. Duran Duran, Genesis, Phil Collins, Sting, and the Police. That was what they front-loaded that thing with. Michael Jackson, it was just so undeniable. That was the reason he got broke through, because It was just so absolutely undeniable. And he did something those other folks weren't doing there. And don't get me wrong, these were all talented musicians and whatnot, but Michael understood the television era is upon us. And he understood, the way I'm going to get through this is these other folks are treating their music videos like a home video or something. The production value wasn't very high. Then comes Michael Jackson's Thriller. He gets a Hollywood director, Landis, to direct it. John Landis, who directed Trading Places and Blues Brothers, American Werewolf in London, and then the tragic Twilight Zone movie. We won't talk about that. But he got John Landis to direct that. Accident. Well, he got John Landis to direct that. And the man was sitting up here and he knew that was the method to use that. The other folks had low production value. He got them to sink the money into that. So that now you got like a mini movie. At that point, you got a deluxe product that MTV just simply cannot ignore. That's what we got to do.
Right.
Thank you very much for giving us a call. When I say we won't talk about it, I mean we won't talk about it. Caller from Area Code 504, you're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Good evening, Jason. This is G from New Orleans.
G from New Orleans, what's on your mind?
How you doing, brother, this evening? Great broadcast as always. I'll try and be as brief as I can, but I want to make some points. What you said about MTV was spot on, what Michael Jackson did. And I want to point out, are you aware, Pepsi is celebrating 125 years, and they don't even have Michael Jackson on their tweets that they were doing to celebrate the artist. And I point all of that out because MTV is having their music awards. But Michael broke ground and basically put MTV on the map when they were a fledgling network and showed them how to make a music video. In fact, he called his videos short stories, but he changed the business. And black people in music, we are the basis of that. They did not put black artists on by claiming, well, we only do rock and roll. But black people created that. Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Fats Domino. And even when we talk about hip-hop, when you look at the state of hip-hop and right now, James Brown and some brother mentioned George Clinton, but James Brown is the most sampled artist in history. So I just get offended when I hear other people and other groups trying to claim basis to hip-hop when we know we've been that. We witnessed it, Jason. We witnessed it. So how they're going to say Puerto Ricans created this? How Busta Rhymes is going to get on BET and say it started in Jamaica? The hell are you saying, nigga? You were on MTV when they had MTV Raps with the leaders of the new generation. How can you say that it started in Jamaica?
Because in their minds, it is not legitimate unless they made it. And the other thing is, this thing is too valuable to allow us to keep. It's too valuable. It is too valuable. It is too influential. It's just too valuable to allow us to keep it. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Like I say here, folks, you got to be careful. They're mugging our culture. They're going to mug this here, and now you have government agents, you have government politicians, weirdly dressed as they are. She looks like a pink spatula. But this is what they're doing. Let me get caller from area code 718. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
M. Tima from New York.
Okay, who from New York?
M. Tima.
All right, M. Tima from New York. What's on your mind?
Yes. No, I'm going to piggyback on what the brother said about James Brown being the first that we heard on record. I believe all these rappers from the 70s copped their game from James Brown. Another thing I want to mention just briefly is there's a movie, I put it in the chat, called New Orleans that starred Louis Armstrong. One segment he did an absolute rap, and that was in 1947. So, brother, I'm glad you're touching this topic because it needs to be touched. I'm tired of these fools talking about, oh, it was created in the Caribbean, it was created in Africa, everywhere but here, where our people are from.
Nobody lets us go ahead and walk into what they're doing and make ourselves even the face of it, much less to claim that we created it. Once again, we can't be lax about this thing, this we are the world attitude. We saying we are the world, and the rest of the world is saying, no, we are the ones. Thank you very much for giving us a call. Let me get caller from area code 210. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Hello, this is Tony from San Antonio.
Tony from San Antonio. What's on your mind?
What do you call it? One of the things one of the things that caught my attention is not only how so many people who are non-FBA have been trying to steal our culture and our music and everything, but another thing also I've noticed is that one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of times it's like they're secretly studying us, and they're it's almost like collecting data or something like that, so that when they can, when the time is right, they can go in and like basically, excuse me.
Well, they're not secretly studying us. They're doing it in the open. They got whole research groups, whole corporate. They're not secretly studying us. All these people, these other areas, they're not doing it in secret, brother. They upfront with it. Thank you very much for giving us a call here tonight. Let me get caller from area code 510. You're on live with the Black Channel. What's your name? Where you calling from? Okay, you are listening to the wrong thing here. We're going to let you go ahead and take the rest of the night off. Definitely, like I say here, folks, the government policy, their official government social policy is to divorce us from it, to take it from us by all means. That is the official government social policy. We are going to be in for the fight of our existence. But then again, we've always been there. We're going to go ahead and wrap things up here tonight. If you are new here to the Black Channel, welcome to the Haven of Intelligent Black Thought. We do this every weekend. Click that red subscribe button. Click that yellow notification bell. Join us each and every time that we are here. If you have not been to our website, blackchannelfilms.com, you want to go and check out our groundbreaking, best-selling documentary work, 7 a.m., Gentrified, Race War, all available on DVD and streaming. Go to blackchannelfilms.com. That is blackchannelfilms.com. I want to thank all of you for joining us tonight. Thank you to Tommy Felix in the super chat. Thank you very much for your generous contribution. Thank you to everyone who has contributed to support tonight's program on CashApp, Super Chat, Venmo. See if we can never get PayPal straightened out. Thanks to all of you joining us here live or recorded. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and sharing. And this concludes tonight's broadcast of the Black Channel. I am your host, your brother, your humble servant, the Black Authority. And until next time, my brothers and my sisters from around the world, remember, Black is the future and the future is your legacy.